You will discover how our team has just taken a crucial step to add a 49ers weapon that could revolutionize our offense and reunite with Jayden Daniels. But it doesn't stop there. Let's dive into why the open position on the defensive command foreshadows more problems for 2026, revealing the harsh reality of our defense and why elite coordinators are avoiding Washington. And there's more. You'll understand the limited options we have and why we might be forced to hire an inexperienced coach again. Stay tuned until the end, because every detail is crucial for the future of the Commanders. The Washington Commanders will look to bounce back in 2026 after a disastrous 2025 season that left us frustrated. As a fan who suffered through every painful game this season, I know we need drastic changes. Washington has already hired a new offensive coordinator, David Blau, following Cliff Kingsbury's departure, and is currently in search of its next defensive coordinator before beginning to analyze the possibility of improving the roster. The Commanders will have many gaps to fill, as they are one of the teams with the highest number of free agents, and they will look to the free agent market and the NFL draft to completely rebuild their roster. One area where they can also bolster their roster is through free agency. And after a misunderstanding with the 49ers in San Francisco, wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk should be on the team's radar, and that would be an exciting addition. Aiyuk is done in San Francisco, and this situation is complex. The 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk reached a contractual agreement not long ago, which would have left him satisfied, but unfortunately, things did not go as planned. Aiyuk suffered a knee injury that ended his season in 2024 and led him to be placed on the physically unable to perform list at the start of the 2025 season, while he recovered from the severe injury. However, from there, things took a drastic turn that no one expected. In December of this season, the 49ers made the decision to place Aiyuk on the reserve list, making him ineligible to return for the remainder of the 2025 season. Doubts began to arise about what was really happening with Aiyuk. But in a press conference after the season's end, head coach Kyle Shanahan and general manager John Lynch clarified the situation. The 49ers voided a large part of his guaranteed contract for the 2026 season, and he will certainly be traded, as evidenced by Lynch's comments this offseason. While a trade is possible, it seems that the 49ers will have to waive Aiyuk without receiving anything in return, which opens up an opportunity for us. The lack of communication and the unfortunate and confusing actions, according to Shanahan, led to this moment. With Aiyuk now available elsewhere, he will have the chance to reconnect with his former college quarterback in the Washington metro area. While there's no guarantee they would sign him, the Commanders could certainly benefit from his skills on a receiving corps that lacks options beyond Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, should he decide to return to the team. Acquiring Aiyuk would place him alongside his former Arizona State teammate Jayden Daniels, and it would be a perfect transition if the Commanders can ensure he is cleared by medical exams and are willing to deal with his quirky personality. As a fan, I would love to see this duo reunite in Washington and create magic on the field. If the Commanders can get assurances that Aiyuk will accept their plans, there's no reason not to try to sign him immediately. It would be a risky bet, but in the end, the risk could be worth it if he manages to resolve the situation and return to his elite level. Otherwise, Aiyuk will likely remain unemployed and out of the league, regardless of any team's interest. And now, brace yourself for a devastating analysis of our defensive situation. You will discover why the open position in the defensive command heralds more problems for 2026, and how the harsh reality of our defense is pushing away elite coordinators. It's not that the Washington Commanders haven't tried to hire an elite defensive coordinator, because they have. They interviewed high-level professionals, but the open defensive coordinator position is yet another bad sign for the 2026 season, and that deeply concerns me as a fan. It's understandable that high-level defensive coordinators who aspire to a head coaching position are waiting for these opportunities to be filled first. Bills, Steelers, Browns, Cardinals, and Raiders have yet to find their head coaches, which complicates our search. This makes life difficult for a team like the Commanders in their quest for a solid and competent defensive coordinator. But the issue doesn't stop there, unfortunately. The Commanders need more than just a defensive coordinator. They need a complete overhaul of the unit. Just look at this defense and try to find any bright spots. Name one defensive player who truly excites the Commanders for the 2026 season. You won't find any Pro Bowl players. If you want to stretch it, maybe you can support the edge rusher Dorrance Armstrong, but he hasn't been selected for the Pro Bowl in his 8-year career, so he's not exactly a star. Linebacker Bobby Wagner is still in great shape for his age. He was the highest rated defender for the Commanders, with a grade of 79.3, according to Pro Football Focus. But he's approaching 36, and we don't know how much longer he can play at a high level. Cornerback Trey Amos showed some promise in his rookie year, but his PFF rating of 55.8 was not impressive. There's nothing there that really excites or offers hope for the future. Is there any other defensive coordinator vacancy in the NFL that looks worse than ours? It's even surprising that Coach Dan Quinn managed to convince guys like Brian Flores and Jonathan Gannon to interview. considering the deplorable state of our defense. Now, the Commanders have the 7th overall pick in the draft, and this is a crucial opportunity. And this pick will almost certainly, we hope, be used to select a pass rusher who can change the game. The Commanders desperately need to nail this pick, or we're doomed to another season of frustrations. According to ESPN, draft expert Mel Kiper expects the Commanders to select Ruben Bain Jr. from Miami. The quarterbacks and offensive tackles in the NFC East are not going to be happy if Washington opts for this strategy, Kiper wrote. Bain knows how to get to the quarterback, with 9.5 sacks and 17.5 tackles for loss projected for 2025. He has a great combination of strength, speed, and flexibility, and the Commanders could move him along the defensive line to create mismatches for the opposing offense, Kiper continued. This is a clear need for Washington, after the defense allowed 6.0 yards per play, the 3rd worst mark in the league. As a fan, I completely agree with this assessment. They could also consider David Bailey, the pass rusher from Texas Tech, who has been a dominant force. An alternative option would be Keldrick Falk from Auburn, who has also shown a lot of potential. One player alone isn't going to solve everything, but interested defensive coordinators can at least catch a glimpse of a ray of hope with this high draft pick. Another problem is the situation with head coach Dan Quinn, and that complicates things even more. No, it's not that Quinn isn't a good head coach. He is, and his defensive knowledge would be a great help for the new coordinator. However, Quinn is walking a delicate path at this moment in his career in Washington. He burst onto the scene with the Commanders and won 12 games in his first year, filling us with hope. And then he took the team to the NFC Championship, something that hadn't happened in decades. But that ended with a humiliating loss to the Eagles, and it seems like everything came crashing down after that devastating game. The Commanders had a terrible performance in 2025, and Quinn seems to have little margin for error in 2026, which increases the pressure. One of Quinn's issues is his inability to recognize the deficiencies of defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr. The Commanders won in 2024 with their offense, not with Whitt's defense, and they appeared even worse in that aspect last season. Finally, almost reluctantly, Quinn fired him after wasting an entire season. All of this contributes to the possibility that the next defensive coordinator may only hold the position for 1 year. This is true even if the new coordinator does a good job. If the Commanders don't win in 2026, it's likely that Quinn will be fired, and the new coordinator will go along with him. So, what is left for the Commanders in this complicated situation? It puts them in the same position they found themselves with the offensive coordinator. The Commanders promoted young David Blau to that position, and they will also have to find an inexperienced coach for the defense, which is not ideal. Therefore, the Commanders are considering Al Harris, the defensive backs coach and defensive passing game coordinator for the Bears. The problem is that this could be more of a repetition of what happened in Dallas and with Whitt Jr. We already know this didn't work with Whitt Jr., even though Quinn spoke very highly of him when he initially hired him. Harris is 51 years old and is no longer a promising young talent. That's why hiring him doesn't feel exciting for us fans. However, the Bears forced 33 turnovers this season, which is more than the Commanders had in the last 2 seasons combined. An impressive number. At least Quinn understands that the Commanders won't go anywhere in 2026 if they don't start forcing turnovers and creating more opportunities for the offense. It's a start, but we need much more than that to compete in the NFC East. So, fans, after hearing about the exciting possibility of bringing Brandon Aiyuk to reunite with Jayden Daniels, and understanding the harsh reality of our defensive situation with the difficulty of finding an elite coordinator, which of these situations leaves you more hopeful for 2026? Do you believe that the addition of Aiyuk and an elite pass rusher in the draft would be enough to make up for Al Harris's lack of experience as a defensive coordinator? And more importantly, do you still trust Dan Quinn to make the right decisions and lead us back to the playoffs, or do you think his days are numbered if we don't at least achieve 10 wins next season? Leave your opinion in the comments. I want to know what you think about the future of the Washington Commanders.